funny in this. You just gotta do it. Yeah, put your headphones on and do it yourself. You'll see.
It got me doing weird shit.
That's the way to live. It sounds so funny. It sounds like you're on the border of either crying or laughing, but you can't tell. You're like, are they upset or
Are they
laughing?
okay?
Probably not.
I'm not okay. No, I am okay. I wasn't okay, but now I am.
I'm always probably okay. Ultimately, I'm always okay, even if I don't feel like I'm okay. Because if I wasn't okay, I wouldn't be here. So let's be alright.
Valid.
It's a simple lens.
Sometimes my thoughts make me feel like I'm not okay.
Me all the time. Let's go.
I feel like it's a very relatable topic.
Yeah. I started doing like that possibly could be true, but the probability it's not helps me wonders. I'm like, you're right. That's what I do with my like the OCD thoughts about like your stand out. I'm like, yeah, it's a possibility, but the probability is low.
Using those math terms.
It's the only way to be like, you're right.
You're right.
You're right.
Welcome to the Ethereal Podcast, Season 2, Episode 5. The wrong one again. Welcome to bullshit.
These buttons because I can't help but do it every
time. I was
time.
about to say, are you gonna do that every time?
Bullshit. And I don't catch it till after I click the button. I'm like, wow, I do that every time.
Whatever. Okay, so on the topic of thoughts making you feel like you're not okay, we're gonna talk a little bit about thoughts today, being present, and just kind of we've got a couple other topics that kind of trail off from that. So bear with us today. We're both feeling a bit.
The body starts from the top and goes down. If you think, because we're showing we're thinking, and then it's gonna go down through the body. So we're really, it's the whole thing.
It's all connected, but it's not one topic.
It should be the title. It's all connected. I feel like we say that on every episode almost, so
because it is all connected. Everything.
Yeah. It's like a funny little script.
Yeah. Okay, so
well, I think first the important thing is to acknowledge the difference between thoughts and thinking, because we did kind of like put it as like thoughts here, but it is like thinking is the difference. Thoughts are the input output, like what is being spit at you in your mind, like what you just kind of pick up on. Thinking is the active participation in that thought. That's something I read in the book that I've been reading that made me really see the difference of being like, oh, how I'm feeling is because of what I'm choosing to think based off of the thoughts or the feeling, instead of changing what I'm thinking despite what my thoughts are saying.
Right.
Because your thoughts can say something completely different than what you're thinking. But if you're actively choosing what you're thinking and you're following down a better path, that helps. But also not getting trapped in thinking all the time.
That's what I've been trying to break myself out of recently is overthinking. Yeah, girl, I've never played the song Overthinker by INZO so many times in my life because it's got Alan Watson and it's literally it's like if all you have to think about is thoughts, then you are not living in reality. Yeah, you're not present at all. You're just thinking about thoughts, and then so
you're just thinking about your thoughts.
One thing I've started doing is when a thought comes up, that would be what I call a triggering thought, triggering me to a thought thinking loop. I notice the thought and I love it. I know that sounds crazy, but like I acknowledge it and I'm like, because at the end of the day, like, who am I? What am I? Well, I tell myself, I use the mantra, I am loving awareness. So I love everything that I'm aware of, or at least it's what I'm trying to do. That's the goal. And I get better and better at it as time goes on. So I love the thought, even if it's something that's quote unquote negative or hateful or this, that, and the other, or something that I'm just like, oh, but instead of judging that thought and trying to correct that thought, I notice it and I say, I love you. And I take a deep breath, and on the exhale, I let it go. And that's how I've been breaking out of like getting trapped into the thinking, because if your thoughts are input output, then it's just trying to get a reaction from you.
Yeah, it's literally like in the book that I was reading, in it, one of the examples they give is like your thoughts are like a toddler trying to get your attention. And you have to, and you have to decide when what's going on is relevant enough to pick them up. Like, just because they're whining for you to pick them up doesn't mean you have to pick them up. You have to decide when it's necessary to
Because
pick
then
up
you're
the
gonna
toddler.
create some unhealthy attachment if you pick them up every
And
time.
then they're gonna want you to pick them up every time they speak. So then every time you have that thought, you're gonna loop.
We love a good analogy. We love a good analogy.
Yeah, I love metaphors and analogies. They're so fun.
Mm-hmm.
To make things digestible.
Oh yeah,
that's the important part, because sometimes I
just don't be understanding shit unless it's put in the form of an analogy, metaphor, or example.
I read a really long time ago. I mean, I had to be like in elementary school, about to be in middle school, or maybe I was in middle school.
Closer.
Maybe. Yeah. What the fuck are you telling me to do?
You was back there from the mic.
I don't know why I did that, but anyways, in like middle school, one of the things I'd read was that you don't really know a topic, and you're not really a teacher unless you can teach the same topic to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like a breaking thing where I was like, if I can't teach this to like a child, make it digestible for someone that has simple thinking, not necessarily child, but like simple thinking,
mm-hmm.
and someone that has complex thinking, then I'm not properly able to articulate what I know.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always strived to try to like make it digestible, because I've always hated that things aren't digestible, especially like things that really help us. It's like, why were we taught like these really overcomplicated methods and words when you could have just simply said, like, in just simple, like, oh, if you're thinking and it's sad and you focus on those thoughts, you're going to feel sad. But if you get out of your mind and don't focus on your thoughts, they'll go away and you won't feel sad. That is so simple, but it took me a very long time to understand that, because I thought if my thoughts are sad, then I need to be sad right now, and I would be sitting in it forever. And it's like, no. If the thought came strictly from if your feelings came strictly from a thought, it probably isn't needed to be felt right now,
right?
Because you're articulating the feeling yourself. It's not there. It's not just coming out, like you're bringing it forward.
Bro, if I could have learned that before my 27 years of life, I'd tell you how much money I'd pay to have learned that years ago and not over the last couple of months.
Dude, there's so many things where I'm like, if I would have just learned this a little younger, this would have changed my life.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda, but you know what? That ain't the damn case, so we move on.
Well, yeah, I remind myself all the time at the end, I am 27, and so I go, oh, I wish I learned this before now, but imagine being 40, 50. And
I was about to say there's people that are 50 and haven't learned that yet.
Yeah, and I'm like, I think by that time, I'm like, that's sad. Like, you know what? I do feel late to the game, but I'm not that late.
You're like, I am grateful.
I'm like, I got there. I'm doing the thing.
Yep. I feel that. Yeah. So that is definitely something that I've worked on heavily over the last couple of months, because I mean, basically when I started microdosing mushrooms last year, I was like, oh, my thoughts and my mindset, they need a little work.
We'll tweak it.
A couple screws are loose up in this hoe. And
like, she's on the rocks.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, it was me when I did mine.
So those tips were very helpful. Yeah. Anyways,
we did want to talk about how like thinking is action. I already did say that we already know like thinking is an action, something you're like running with and like actively. At the end of the day, if you remember that you were the awareness through everything, like, sure, you're the body, the mind, whatever, but like at the end, if you look on the basis level, you were the awareness. Your awareness is where your presence is. So if your awareness is in your thoughts, then you're not being present in reality.
You're not being aware of the present moment in reality.
Yeah, taken, like, your thoughts can very quickly take you out of being present. And even if you think, oh, but I'm thinking about what's presently going on. Yeah, but now it's not presently going on because you're in your thoughts. So it's not the present.
Right.
It's the past.
Like, you can have a thought about like something that just happened, but if you start to engage with that thought after that event happened,
Yeah, you take yourself out of it.
Yeah. Like me the other day when I was trying to cook some beans and I opened the packet and bruh, the whole thing ripped and the beans just flew all over my kitchen. But I looked at it and I paused for a second and I was like, well, that happened. And I just began cleaning them up. Whereas in
Spilt the beans.
yeah, spilled the beans. But whereas a few months ago, I would have been like seething.
See, I feel like I go through like the way I cope with like not getting angry or do stuff like that is I get weird first. Like if I would have drawn all of it, I would have been like beans.
I make a joke out of it. Make a joke out of it. You know what's funny though? I spilled those beans twice because that was last week, and then I cooked them. And the beans that I was eating yesterday that I spilled all over myself in my car
Were those beans?
with those beans.
Damn,
I spilled those beans
beans
twice, and I was like, "Damn, I really have made progress." Because
spilled the beans twice. Same mother.
do you like saying spilled?
Yeah, it's a funny saying.
You remember when cool beans was a thing?
Cool beans with the Z was right before it went out too, and that was like hidden. God, that was so long ago. I was like middle school.
Yeah, yeah. I was in like 7th grade.
Why did we say that?
Cool bean.
Side eye.
I have no idea.
Like the more I think about it, the less it makes sense. Like how the fuck did that even start? If anyone knows the origin, I'll look it up later.
If you understand why it started, comment on YouTube, please and thank you.
Yeah, for real.
Goodbye.
Cool beans.
Anyways, I guess we can kind of segue it when your thoughts lead you into a certain feeling, because sometimes it can cause you to feel a certain way if you're thinking on those input output thoughts and going down the little spiral loops. But sometimes you have to
for sure
go through those spiral loops
do things you don't like. You have to do it sometimes. It's duality.
Yeah, right, exactly. Sometimes you have to evaluate, think through, and
feel and do whatever it needs to be done.
Process things. Yeah.
To like be able to let go of it.
And so oftentimes that doesn't make you feel too good. You feel sad about a certain event that happened, but once you can understand it fully and process it, or even like shift your perspective about it, you kind of open up that heart center, the feeling center. And Saige and I were talking about this not too long ago, that most evolutions in the human and like transformation and growth happens through emotions, and through a lot of the times the hard ones,
learning from
the pain, grief, loss, guilt, regret, like all of those that we classify as bad are actually these monumental growth opportunities that the universe is feeding us. And I've started to love that pain. It's like what you say when you say, "Oh, I know I'm about to glow up through this hard moment."
Feel it. Like I don't know. We have this ideology, at least I did growing up, where you learn from the good positive emotions. But now as I get older, I truly believe the only thing that makes us human is our is the emotion that like sets us like apart. And I feel like in that stating, if emotions are what makes us human, then I think that all emotions have equal learning ability and positive that it can bring, even if it no matter what like the feeling is, because you can have really bad things happen after a good feeling and really good things happen after a bad feeling.
Right.
It's very much like the feelings will come and go in different capacities, and it's about learning when the feelings do arise how to like ride them out. I kind of think sometimes like of emotions being like a rain cloud. Sometimes it's a drizzle, sometimes it's a storm, sometimes a tornado runs
lightning
through,
up in that hell,
like
the winds, tornadoes are coming. Like
it's like it gets really crazy sometimes, but as long as you remember that this is a storm, it doesn't last forever. It's gonna pass. You just need to let the cloud let go so that it can go back to being light.
But if you constantly are like seeking shelter and throwing up the umbrella and just not letting it drizzle on you and
sometimes
experience
you just need rain to clean you.
Yeah,
that's a thing. Even like actual life, having rain outside like fall onto you is there like on an energetic level is good for your body. Like there is actual like scientific things that happen when rainfall lands on you because of like the type of like water that's like with the ions and whatever the fuck. I'd have to
The
look up
charges.
yeah.
I
So
did
it's
not
like
know
that
this.
already is a thing where like it's really good. It's really good to be barefoot, standing outside in the rain, like kind of thing. Like these type of things are good. So if it's good in real life, that's why I think it's a fun analogy to keep in mind in when you're feeling the emotions, because it's the same thing. Like as soon as that rain is over, the cloud is light again, the sun comes out and everything's good, and you're grateful for that rain because of the growth that happens after.
Right.
So it's like it's a full
circle, honey.
cycle.
Yeah, but I think the important thing is to not get wrapped up in the distractions and the things that, because yes, you want to be present in the moment, but you don't want to, like, if you're already feeling a sadness or pain, hurt, whatever you're feeling through a certain situation, and you just distract yourself and distract yourself and distract yourself with drugs, alcohol, going out and partying, constantly being surrounded by friends, or constantly being on your phone, and you're not actually sitting with that feeling, well, the storm's gonna last a little bit longer, and oftentimes it's gonna get worse.
Well, it's like a rain cloud. The longer it holds off, the more water adds to the cloud before it bursts. So like it's going to burst. Do you want to let it? You want to poke it early, or do you want to wait till it's
this is such a good analogy.
Yeah, it's like because it's gonna happen. The rain's gonna have to come from it in order to get light again. So how far do you let the cloud? Like how heavy do you let it get before you're like, all right?
I would rather let it drizzle every other day than fucking tornadoes once a month.
It's like the more I think about it in that way, the easier it is for me to be okay and happy to feel a range of emotions every day. Because there was a time where
like water anyways.
There was a time where if I felt negative emotions in a day, it was considered there was a negative day. And now I'm like, if I don't feel any negative emotion in a day, I'm like, is there anything going on that I'm avoiding? Because I am human and I'm gonna feel a full range of emotions. Am I avoiding something, or has it just really been a good day? Because sometimes there are those days.
Yeah.
But as a very sensitive human, it's rare that nothing. I mean, I get upset about everything. So,
duality.
Yeah. It's like you just gotta let yourself feel, but not get hung up on the feelings. Let them pass.
Let them flow. Ride the waves. Literally ride the waves. That's what I've had to do over the last couple months, and it's definitely not been the easiest thing, but
no, absolutely freaking not. Like I got pretty good at letting myself sit through my emotions when I was alone. Then I realized like, oh, it's really hard for me to let myself feel a full range of like all the things that I'm feeling when people are around, because I'm in the headspace of being like, I need to be like in a let's hang out friend headspace all the time. And so then I'm like struggling to be like, just let yourself. I mean, even as stupid as like work. One time I got overwhelmed at work and I could like feel tears brimming. And I was like, at first I was like, don't cry. Do not cry. You're at work. Do not cry. And then I was like, dude, what the fuck does it matter? I was like, you're overwhelmed, you're overstimulated. If you let these freaking tears that are about to fall out your eyes just fall, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And you'll be happy about it. I let the tears like drop. And then once that was done, I was like, oh, no one even noticed. They wouldn't care even if they did. And now I feel totally fine going back to work. Like I'm not overwhelmed anymore because I let that feeling just kind of do what it needed to do. At that moment, it needed to come out of my eyes and just go.
Yeah.
And it's like letting yourself be okay, no matter where you are, to express what you're feeling is really in our society a really big thing, because our society does teach us that when you're in public, you have to act a certain way.
Girl, I had a breakdown in aisle 7 of Rouse's. Like, fuck being okay in public. Like, sometimes you just have to. But that's also why it's important to have a good support group that you can break down in front of. But, like, I also felt like I was getting maybe a little bit, like, repetitive, redundant, because I was just, like, every time I would hang out with my friends, I was, like, sobbing about what was going on. And so I started secluding myself so that I could just feel it. And I also wanted to be able to learn how to self-soothe and not always have to call somebody, because there's going to be a day where like nobody answers, or a day where like I don't have my phone or something, whatever it is.
Right, it's like preparing for that. Like,
yeah.
I've been like, I don't know, I've gone through like phases. I'm at the point now where like there are some things that like if I feel like I really need to talk to someone about like, I'll talk to them about it. But there came a point where like I sat down and I was like thinking about the last few times I'd hung out with people, like really like hung out for a while, like going and hanging out. And I was like, I was like, what do we talk about? And it was like always trauma, what somebody was going through, the sad shit. And I was like, so the only time I'm around my friends were focusing on all the negative we're going through, we're trauma dumping, we're not enjoying each other's presence. And that's when I was like, I want to enjoy the presence of the people around. Like sometimes we need to talk about stuff, but I realized that I was like only doing those things. And I was like, that's not cool. Like, because then it made me feel like, do I have friends or am I or all just therapists to each other? Like, I want friends, not therapists. If I want a therapist, I'm gonna get one. But I realized that, like, I was making myself that role. I was making my friends have that role. I was making other people have that role. And it's like, that's not the role we are. It's like, if you need to vent, talk to each other, that's normal. But it's the reliance where it's like when I would start to feel something, it's to the point now where sometimes when I'm feeling something, I'll literally lock my phone and put it away and go, don't touch it. Because until you are better, until you are not wanting to call someone to talk about what you're going through, you're not touching your phone.
Right.
Because if you're wanting to call someone to talk about it, you're not dealing with it yourself yet. I was like, if you want to talk to them later after you've already been like, you know what, I don't really need to talk to them. I feel fine. I just want to go chill. Then I'm not allowed to do it. Because I'm like, I'm avoiding something without it. Like that extreme desire is indicating my resistance to doing what I need to do in that moment, which is sit with it.
Right.
Like just myself. And that's been like the
same
weird, but like it's really honestly after a bit it's become quite luxurious because I'm like, no one knows what's going on ever. And I'm like,
one day you'll learn to keep your own secrets.
I'm like, mystery now. Like who's like, what have been going on? I feel like I never know what you're doing. Like what's been happening? Is everything all right? I'm like, yeah, if everything wasn't all right, I would let you know. I was like, but everything's been on the overall.
I've been learning how to self-soothe.
Yeah, I'm like on the overall, I'm doing fine.
I used to like have something happen, whether it was big or small, and I would literally go and like tell like 10, 15 friggin' people.
That was me when I was like a
and
big
now
role
it's
player.
like now I'll just tell, like maybe 1 to 2 close friends, or I'll just sit with it completely by myself.
Yeah, I was about to say, sometimes like if I'm feeling something and I'm like, I just need to like say it. Sometimes it depends what it is. If I'm at work, I might tell Avery, but for the most part, it's like Sam or Riley. I'll be like, let me just fucking tell you this. But honestly, the more things that I find more recently that I'm sharing with other people, and that's how I know it's because I don't know how to process it very well on my own yet, is like anger and frustration. Don't know how to process those. So like if I'm feeling fucking sad, it's so easy for me to be like, I'm not going to call anyone. I know how to handle this. I'm going to help me way better than they will. Like talking to them is not going to help me as much as me sitting with it is. When it comes to frustration and anger, I literally am like, what do I do? Like I literally just have to talk about it because I don't know. Like that's the only thing I know how. I'm like, this is so annoying. Like, what do you like? I'll just like sit with it. And I'm like, the other day I was like, I just feel like I want to get it out, and I felt so angry for no reason. Okay, no fucking reason, and that's why it was pissing me off too. So I was like, the thing that made me angry was stupid. Like I literally.
So there was something that made you angry.
No, it was so dumb. Like I didn't understand the trigger. I was mad. It elicited my sauce.
So that's clearly linked to something.
Yeah, something gets me when I order something specific, and like I specifically put the sauce in the order online on the app, so I know they knew it, and they didn't give me my sauce. And when I got home and I saw it, I was on fire, and I was like, "This should make me this mad." Like I understand getting a little like annoyed. Like usually I'm just like, "That's fucking annoying."
Right. Well, at least you can observe and understand that it shouldn't elicit that level of response. But that's when you know it is a trigger.
Yeah, because I was like, dude, I was like, I try to get this energy out.
I'm glad you punched the bed. That's good.
Yeah, I was like, I want to punch something, but I don't want to hurt my precious hands. And Sam was like, punch the bed. I was like,
I tried that one time. I almost broke my wrist because of the way it ricocheted. I was like,
oh, well, see, I did this.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that one. I started punching.
Kind of fun once I started going fast.
I started punching the ground outside actually.
Not me. Not me. I can't relate. That sounds painful. Like you would hurt your little knuckies.
I wanted it to hurt.
You see,
Because I was also like, it was the sad angry.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, there's like an inch deep hole in the ground, but it was also wet.
I have never been angry to the point where like I wanted to feel bad. Like I know people are like that, like sounds like that too. Like sometimes she's like, I just wanted it to hurt, that's why I did it. And I'm like, what? My brain can't process that because to me that's just never come up in my head. Like my brain just doesn't process it that way. So like anytime I've ever been angry and I'm like, I want to fucking hit something, I'm like, but I don't want to hurt my precious body. Like since I was a kid.
So have you never like self-harmed or anything?
One time I tried, but it hurt, so I said no. That's really I'm just being vulnerable here. I was like 12, 13.
Trigger warning.
Yeah, very much trigger warning, but I was just very upset at some stuff that I had figured out. And I attempted it once, hurt. I said, why the fuck would I do that? And that's when I realized I don't my body, like I want pleasure and nothing but pleasure. So even when I'm upset, the idea of hurting myself is just like, why would I beat myself up when I'm already down? That's how my brain processes it. Because I'm like, now I'm gonna whine about the pain.
See, what I'm reading in the book, The Body Keeps the Score, it's like a lot of the times people self-harm because they don't feel anything. They
Right.
wanna feel something, but also sometimes it's the opposite and they're feeling so much emotional, psychological stuff that they need something to bring them into the present to stop it.
Because like, 'cause I know I mean, when I was in nursing school, we had a brief talk about that. Like, obviously, like, and then when I worked in the psych hospital, there's that, and just a lot of friends. Honestly, most people around me that I've known, like, at some point, like, like we all had rough times. We all just have dealt with it very differently. But I've known people that did like self harm in different ways. I mean, my self harming was with like binge eating. I was more like that, but like when people who do
So
more
you went
like
from a pleasure version of it.
Yeah, full pleasure, where I was just like, when
which
I'm
in
low,
the long run was self-harm because of what it did to your brain and body. Yeah.
Oh yeah. As I was saying, like even like now when I get into a little depressive slip, all I want to do is like eat all my favorite food. Like, and it's not like I can't, like when I get into headspaces, it's like I black out binging. Like the other night, every now and again I still struggle with it. And the other night I had a moment because I had the bread and Nutella. And I put like a little bit on it and I was like eating it. And then Sam came in and I was like, can you take this from me? Because I can't stop myself. Like I'm just gonna continue to be eating it. I almost ate the entire loaf of bread. I said, I didn't even realize. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, I didn't even realize I slipped into a binge slip right there. I was like, I literally just kept, I was like, I had no
I cannot imagine eating a whole loaf of bread.
Yeah, I just literally, I said, I recognized when he came in that I was like, I need you to take this because I can't stop. So I recognized it at that point that that's what was happening. But like when I said, how did I not? Like, it was just one at a time, and it wasn't even like sandwich. Like I literally got one and folded it, and did it for a whole loaf. I said, it's like I black out when I binge. I gotta be careful with that. So that was always like wild. But it's fascinating. Like fascinating sounds wrong, I guess, because it sounds like I'm glamorizing.
I mean, no,
how people like process things, but it is fascinating to see the different ways. Yeah, like the different ways that people find comfort in an uncomfortable life situation.
You clearly just needed some dopamine.
Yeah, well, that's usually my thing. I think I lack like dopamine on a normal level. It's not ADD.
Yes.
Because I've always thought I had ADD and not ADHD. And the reason why is because I've noticed like the dopamine thing. I'm so rambling. We're sitting here. Sometimes I forget we're on camera. And I'm just like talking, and then I'm like, oh my God, I've gone so off topic.
So let's talk about some ways to kind of
bring it back.
So first off, heart center, feeling center, all of the emotions that you're feeling when we don't properly feel them, especially when it's something like big for the nervous system to handle, we suppress it, but it gets stored in our sympathetic nervous system. So you've got your sympathetic nervous system, which is like the body's accelerator, and you've got the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the body's brakes. Rest and relax, and then fight or flight kind of thing. So all of that gets stored up, and I like to use this example because this is the example that Bo, the instructor for the program that I'm in right now, this is what he uses. So what does an animal do out in the wild when it gets attacked and injured? Well, it'll go lay off by itself.
Oh, okay.
And you're like, I have no idea. Rhetorical question. I got you. I got you. I know I saw the look on your face. So it goes off, it lays by itself, and it will shake and tremble and tremor and do whatever it needs to do
to get better,
to release that trauma from its nervous system. Well, think about it as humans. What do we do when, example, we get into a little car wreck? We'll get a little fender bender. We might be shaken up for a moment, but we get out of the car and we're like, fuck, I'm okay, I'm alive, I'm good. And then we call the police. We ring a mate. We ring a friend. And we're like, oh, this just happened. This XYZ, whatever, telling them about it. And then someone will come pick us up. We're with someone. And then we go to sleep. We wake up the next day and we resume our lives. We don't give ourselves the time to let our nervous systems feel what we need to feel a lot of the times.
Yeah,
and so that
it
gets
takes
built
forever
up.
to process. It's like when I spun across the lane that time, it took years for me to not have like anxiety flare every time I got in the car or went past that same like
exactly, because it was still in your nervous system. But had you gone and done some breath work and just sat in that and cried and let yourself freak out for a little bit, you wouldn't have dealt with that.
Yeah, it was like I didn't want to freak out. I wanted to stay calm because I knew that at the end I was okay. So I just tried to focus on that instead of being like, yes, you're okay, but your life flashed before your eyes. Like I literally saw the headline for the news the next day. Like I was there, like I fully accepted it. So I'm like, there was a psychological hit, even though physically I was fine. Psychologically, I had already accepted I was going to be in
and physiologically
or dead. I already accepted that
psychologically and physiologically because your body's system,
and it's like it takes a minute for you to come back, even when you do sit with it. But when you don't sit with it at all and you try to pretend like, oh, that happened, but everything's fine now, let's forget about it happening, it will continue to come up, and then you'll be like, why do I keep getting triggered to this event that happened 5 years ago? And it's like, did you deal with it? Did you feel it? Or did you try to just move past it because it was the past and you're moving forward?
Right. And like literally from a young age as toddlers, what are we told? Shh, hush, stop crying, stop crying. So it's ingrained in us, in our society, to not feel what we're supposed to feel. So there's a few things you can do about that. You can do breakthrough breath work, doing certain breath work techniques, exercises that will activate the sympathetic nervous system. And I mean, I'm going through an 8-week course right now myself. I actually just did the 7th week Monday night. And I mean, dude, random things will come up that I don't even remember happened. Like, tell me why until a year ago I couldn't eat hot sauce because when I was younger and I said a curse word, my mom would put hot sauce on my mouth or soap.
It's very Catholic. Crazy.
I feel like that's such cruel and unusual punishment. But anyways, crazy.
But I mean, like, I've heard that from like Catholics, like soap or hot sauce or like a pepper.
Could not eat hot sauce.
Oh, I don't like it.
Like it triggered me. I hated the feeling on my tongue and the taste, whatever. But I actually like the taste. Yeah. So stuff like that, and then like guilt that I was holding on to from teenage years that I didn't even realize I held all of this guilt, and
guilt is a big one. Like you don't realize.
Like I was literally on my side in the fetal position, like sobbing and like screaming and like hitting the ground, and I was like, "Holy God!" From something that happened when I was like 16, and now, okay, so like I'll get a little more into detail on that one. I had this dog, and I had a lot of anger issues in high school, and I had hit him a couple of times, and now like when Caspius yesterday when he peed on the couch, and he also ate my sandwich yesterday. walked out of the house for 2 seconds, and I
That's the
came
like
back
how
in,
Spanish
and he had
is?
this look on his face, and I was like, "What's up, Bubba? How you doing?" And I looked at my plate, and I saw it was gone, and I was like, "That's why you looking like that." And I looked at him, and I was like, "Go. Get in the kennel. I don't even wanna look at you right now."
Give me
But, like,
space.
and before that breathwork session,
Mhm.
honest to God, I would have, like, been screaming at him, be like, like, cursing him
Mhm.
out, and, definitely won't hit him anymore because I had this whole, like, acid trip one time where I was like, "Animals are just love, and they just wanna love you, and we hit them, what the hell?" And so, from that point on, I was like, I'll never put my hands on an animal ever again."
I had that
That
thought
was so
about
horrible.
toddlers for like when I was like a teenager, I was like thinking about how I got whipped as a kid, and I was like how it did, and I was just like
Just
why
'cause
are
we
they
didn't
doing
listen.
that? Yeah, I was like that's really odd
That
that
came
from
up
such a
in
young age.
that
But I
came
feel
up in
like
my
that's
session
also
too.
why it was easier when you had an anger to lash out on the animal because we were also taught as kids when you make your parent angry, you're gonna get whipped. You're
Well,
gonna
yeah, my
get
mom
like it's
whipped
part of the
me, so
punishment.
I would, hit the
Yeah.
dog.
So like,
Yeah.
see, we didn't have animals, so I never had like that. But I can definitely like how I am now, and I see I'm like I'm glad I didn't have animals before I reached a certain age because
Probably would beat the crap out
I
of
probably would have got overstimulated and not
Mhm.
known how to handle it and lashed out on the animal. I'm like
And
that's
it's
like
such
it's
a
like
common thing, and it's so heartbreaking. Like,
it
the
is.
amount of guilt that I felt was, like, soul crushing. Like, I it
No,
was
I believe it.
horrible. And then Caspius came up to me during the session, which is crazy because he usually doesn't come up to me
Mhm.
unless I'm, like, screaming or crying really loud, and he'll just, like, lick me a couple times and walk away, but he came up and he laid next to me for the rest of the session, and I was just, like, petting him just, like, so gently with so much
Mhm.
love, and I was like, "I love you so much, buddy, like, I'm so grateful for you." And it's the way that I wish I would have treated, Balto when I had him.
Right.
Because that was, honest to God, like, I've had a lot of great dogs in my life, but Balto was amazing. He was so majestic. He was a Great Pyrenees. He was part wolf.
I don't know what a Great Pyrenees is, but part wolf school.
The big, fluffy, white herding dogs.
They kind of okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they're all white
That's
with
what they're
long
called.
hair. Pyrenees, Great Pyrenees, yeah. Yeah. So breath work, breakthrough breath work, releasing, activating the sympathetic nervous system, releasing that stuff can be absolutely groundbreaking and really just peel back all the layers of the onion that is your life. But there's
Some
also
stretches and stuff too. I've had
yeah,
a lot of
PRE, trauma release exercises.
I've had a lot of like things specifically with like my lower spine. I have a lot of belief personally that a lot of the physical ailments that we have an energetic connection.
Yeah,
So
most of them.
with that, yeah, like that's my belief. So for me, like I've had times where like I'm working at like my lower back and my hips, and like all of a sudden, like there's like this like pop, my hips like open up in a way where it's like I just start sobbing, like not from pain, it's just like this relief.
Emotional
Yeah, it's like this
release.
just like
Mm-hmm.
wow, it's out. Is the feeling that it is. And it's like I've had that with my lower back, I've had that with my hips, I've had that with like up in like here, where it's just like something I can't explain other than all of a sudden you're normal and then you feel like this like wave of like release.
That actually is very common when people go get their psoas released, which is a muscle that's like it attaches from up in your abdomen,
Oh, I saw that.
the
I wanna do
back
that so bad.
the back of your abdomen, and it wraps around to the top of your hip
Mhm.
flexor. And most emotional trauma, not all of it, because obviously it's all throughout the body, but most trauma, especially big trauma, is stored in your hips.
That's because it's where the root chakra is. It's
Mm-hmm.
your
Hip flex.
safety, your
Mm-hmm.
source of I feel
Hip
stable.
flexibility is largely linked to trauma. So if you're like you're not ready for breath work and the big crazy releases, go on YouTube and type in TRE
Yeah, just
and
do
just
little
check that out.
stretches.
Do a little 10-minute thing,
I've
try that
done
out, see how
many
it
that
feels.
didn't give any type of release. It was just a good stretch. So it's like don't get worried like you can't do these things or it's going to be emotional every time. They're just helpful.
Mm-hmm.
One, because there is health benefits to having like an open hip area. So all of ours is so tight from standing all day or sitting all day. Like that's kind of our prerogative at this point in our society. So like that kind of thing is helpful anyways. And on top of helping yourself physically, whether you believe it or not, eventually you'll see like it is something that emotionally and energetically is helping you as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, if you're someone who like, if you have to see, to do woo woo or type of things, it's harder for you. Start with the stretching and like trying to like deep like release like your muscles and stuff like that, because it is very physical.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you see the benefits you get from it on a deeper level, it really opens a whole new world of what can I do to get get these releases out.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I fell into any type of breath work, was from that happening first, and then being like, I didn't even know this was possible to feel that kind of like release that came out of me. It's like the way that it was like if suddenly I could feel what it was and it was just gone. I was like, what the fuck? And it started me looking into what else I could do. And it helped me get more in touch with my body and what was going on in my body, because it started that whole spiral.
Right. And a lot of times when we're heavily traumatized, we are disconnected from the body and we cannot feel the body and what's actually going on. They did this experiment where they had, I think maybe it might have been specifically just war veterans, but it might have just been very traumatized people. But they had them hold out their hand and they would put something simple in their hand, like a key. Most of them could not identify what was put into their hand. It was all right, but like if you put a key into my hand, like I'm gonna feel it and be like, oh, that's a key.
Yeah, but you do have it's that whole like being touched.
But I feel like maybe
body.
years ago, I probably could have been at the point where I didn't know. But anyways, yeah. So the body is crazy. It holds on to things, everything, whether it's big or small. And you might think of something as insignificant, but if it happened to you in younger years, your young self couldn't process that and feel it the way that you needed to, and maybe you didn't have someone guiding you through it, and so that's like stuck with you your whole life. Like hence my anger of spilling the beans. Like obviously something happened when I was younger that just absolutely set me off, and I don't know. So
probably like getting in trouble for spilling or like wasting.
Who knows?
That's what my family was like. Wasted food, it was a big deal. We had like a period where we had to like eat like all of our food. Like
clean your plate, or you can't leave the kitchen table.
That's fucking crazy to think about,
bro. Like, what if your mom just like slapped too much food on there for your little body to eat?
That shit nasty.
Yeah. So
what if you're just like, this ain't for me, and that's okay.
Exactly. But so let's talk a little bit more about the way that your thoughts are linked with your breathing and your respiratory rate. So like first off, you can go ahead and explain this part, since it's more of the nurse sciencey part, even though I know a lot about it as well.
Yeah, I was like, because especially with the stuff you've been learning with the breath work, you learn all that. But on a base level, the respirations is basically how many breaths you take per minute. In the nursing field, at least here, the standard we looked for was 12 to 20 was considered the average. I want you to count how many times you breathe in a minute, and then like
set a timer.
And does 20 or more than that per minute feel like you're hyperventilating? Why would you ever feel at peace if you're breathing so fast in a minute?
Right.
And so I feel like that's why a lot of our society is stuck in these really high stress feelings, because we don't realize that we're putting our bodies into a high stress mode by just not slowing down,
like simply by breathing too quickly.
We're in a let's go society, but if you go your body and you don't take time to do what you need to, your body isn't, I don't think the body is meant to, on a calm day, breathe 20 per minute. And it's like you kind of measure yourself and see what feels right to you and what number feels right to you. But I feel like when you keep in mind that the average is considered 12 to 20, it makes a lot of sense of why, at 20 breaths per minute, why you're feeling anxious. And if you're feeling anxious, let's see what's going on in your mind, because you're probably thinking about something that's making you breathe faster, because you're not in your mind, you're not in your body anymore, you're in your mind. So your body is catching up with your mind.
Right. And if you're taking that quick and shallow of a breath, oftentimes you're chest breathing and you're not breathing through your diaphragm. Because if I sit here, I would have to try, because 20 Oh my God, 20 breaths per minute. That's like a 3-second inhale and a 3-second
The fastest
exhale.
I've ever
That's
seen
insane.
in clinic was 24
That
in
is,
a minute.
that
That I
person
counted. I'm
had a
like,
panic disorder. I
yeah,
can
I'm
almost
like,
guarantee
whoa.
you.
I'm like, you were like in hindsight. Now I recognize it. I'm like, whoa, they're probably like they're in a state of like flight. It's this fight or
Because your
flight
heart rate
response.
goes up, your blood pressure goes up when you are breathing too often and too shallow and short. And also, chest breathing is largely like scientifically largely linked to lower back pain, shoulder pain, and several other types of chronic pain issues in the body that don't have really an explanation. Well, it's
I feel like
diaphragm, all these muscles, everything is all connected. Your diaphragm like connects all the way up to your, I think, part of your throat.
Yeah, that bitch is
And
that's the
all
thing,
around
if
your
your
ribs and everything.
diaphragm
Like
is
it's
so goes all the way through your abdomen, why do you think you should only be breathing at the very top of it? It's very
right.
shallow. You're not
You want to breathe deep into the belly.
Yeah, it's like you want the way I explain it, I think that the reason why it causes like pain, specifically like the lower back, right? When I wake up in the morning, I try to get myself to do my deep breaths, and it takes me a minute because my lower back has problems. And what I recognize is when you do the deep breaths, it's pulling oxygen there, which helps to help it feel better. But when you're not breathing that oxygen down there, which is why, like, if you're sleeping, like for me, when I wake up, when I do these deep breathing exercises and it's a deep breath, I can feel the way that like my lower back is loosening because of the breath that I'm putting down. And like that's like
You're
a simple thing you
oxygenating
don't
your blood and your
realize.
muscles,
Yeah,
and
it's
your
like you
muscles
don't
are able to.
realize how different your body can feel just by breathing, like filling up your entire stomach.
Right.
Theory.
And one thing to help yourself, you can put one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest, and you want to feel the hand over your stomach doing most of the movement, and you want it to move first before your chest. So you want to fill up the belly and then the chest. So give that exercise a little shot, put on a timer for a minute and count your breaths and see what your resting
What feels
breathing
comfortable for you
rate
at
is
this
at.
moment.
Yeah, just do
Compared
your
to like 6
natural.
months, see what it is if you're actively trying to slow it down too. Because like there was times where like I don't know what my resting is right now, but I know that when I first started, I guess my resting heart rate was 16, and when I started actively like slowing it down, and I got it down to like
Your heart rate?
no.
I was like,
why do I keep saying resting heart rate respirations?
I was like, are you dead?
Probably. No, my heart rate was always like, and back when my respirations were like 16 to 20, my heart rate was over 100.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I was having like 115 just chilling.
See, I wake up in the morning, and because they've been having us do our baseline score and our heart rate every morning. So I'll set a timer for 30 seconds. I'll feel my pulse. And typically mine is anywhere between 62 and 74. But if I wake up with anxiety, it's been as high as like 86, I think. But that's the highest that it's gotten to.
60 to 100 is what's considered average in this society.
Nice.
Yeah, but even in that,
so typically
I feel like
you
it
want it
shows,
to be lower.
Yeah,
because the average, everybody is stressed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. For the average to go all the way up to 100 is crazy. And like, there's a lot of people.
That's a large threshold.
I was rocking my whole life. Like, I was rocking at 115. That was my resting, and that was just because I had so
you were
much
just
anxiety.
Yeah.
It was before I ever really started looking into mental health. It was back like before I started that, and that was what made me start, because I was like,
I mean, mine was probably really high in high school too. I was angry as shit. I was always
just like everything was like. It was like, well, my heart rate was through the roof for me sitting in a chair. It's like stuff like that. Your body does tell you more than you think it does. It is connected.
Just have to be educated on it and aware of it. So, and I'm watching some of these videos, and like he was breaking down, your respirations average per minute, but the goal is for it to be around like 6 to 8. Like that's a very healthy respirations average.
Yeah, we used to tell people like at least aim for like 10 to 12.
Like 12 to 20, like girl, that's
20 breath minutes. I really want to like time myself and do it. Like after.
No, I'd make myself anxious. I don't want to do it.
I'd be so curious.
I'm good.
My curiosity. It has to be like For like, that's a lot of breaths. That's a
Because
lot
if
of
you
work.
break it down, I'm pretty sure that's
I'm not gonna lie.
3 and 3. That's wild, right? Am I doing that math right?
Yeah, 3 and 3. 3 in, 3 out.
I'm sorry, but I literally go for
That's a
like
lot.
5-second inhale, 10-second exhale. Like, you're not gonna catch me.
That person was doing 2.5. That the fastest I've ever seen the 24. 2.5. You know, that's crazy.
That is a recipe for anxiousness. So
Yeah, try to slow down your breathing, conscious breathing every now and again. That's what started with me.
try to do it
every
3
now and
times a
again.
day.
Yeah, just when you randomly think about it, go, let me take 5 slow breaths in and out.
Literally, it takes a minute.
Just do
If
that, and
that.
slowly you start doing it more, and you start seeing the progress, you start seeing how it does, and then you just want to do it more.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll do that several times throughout the day at this point because
When
I've
I
been
randomly
working on
think
it
of
for a
it.
couple months. Yeah,
I'm like, when's the last time I did some
Right.
deep breaths?
Literally. So on that note, guys, like, just bring yourself a little more into your body, be aware, do a couple of little trials, experiments, whatever. Record some data. Like, it takes 2 minutes in the morning to get your pulse and get your baseline. Not even that long. And so the baseline score, what you're gonna do, you want to do this in the morning before you wake up, before you have any type of
I was
stimulation.
like, huh? Well, do this in the morning before you wake up.
Before you wake up, right after you wake up.
I was like, okay.
I didn't even catch that. I'm so like focused on it.
Like,
Okay,
like before you like really wake up.
before you get out of bed,
Okay.
before you get on your phone, before you have bright lights, stimulation, anything
Mhm.
like that, lay there and just take 3 normal breaths. And on the 3rd exhale, you're going to exhale just a quick one, not a long, all your breath out, but just a quick normal. And then you're going to pinch your nose and start the timer. And typically when people start the first time, it's going to be around 16 to 20. But your goal is to get between the 30 to 60 threshold.
Of like how long you can like hold it.
Mm-hmm. And you want to hold it until you feel the bodies. It's either you're going to get like a flutter in your stomach or the kick in your throat kind of thing. So check that out. Try your baseline score, record your BPM, and
seeing how things change over time is really fascinating. It's okay to make yourself your own case study.
Yeah, when
we obsess over everyone else, it's okay to make yourself a little like feel a little extra. It's okay to go, this is me. Let me check in with myself. And checking in with yourself isn't just how am I feeling? It's checking in with yourself is, am I fed? Have I had water? Am I clean? What's going on in my body? Is there any aches and pains? Have I done my deep breaths? Like, it's all of that. You have to remember that taking care of yourself is a full spectrum thing. So it's okay to put a little extra effort in to understand how to better take care of yourself.
Right. When I first started, my baseline was 16. But now my average is anywhere from 28 to 45, 50. And I've even had a couple of baseline scores that were over a minute. So you will
fluctuate,
train your body to breathe deeper, lower, slower, and more controlled if you just put in a tiny bit of work into it.
That's the thing. You start small, and whoever's like, it's really that classic case of the turtle and the rabbit. Slow and steady does win the race. You don't have to make the massive overnight changes that completely make you a whole new person. Start with something small that's going to make a difference. Right. It's not sustainable. Because then you'll
set yourself up for
playing
failure.
A role. Yeah, you'll end up feeling like you're playing a role. As someone who's done that before, trying to just overnight be completely different, you'll do that for a bit. And it does influence you in a good way, but at some point you'll feel disappointed that you feel like you're playing a role because it's not clicking as well as you thought it would, because you're being impatient. And that's one of the biggest things I think humans are on this planet to learn is patience, because it is a time reality and we always feel like we're running out of time. So it causes us to be rushed. And reality is like, slow down. Just take your time.
Literally. Take a few deep breaths.
It's like, take your time, one step at a time, and eventually you'll look back and then go, that's crazy that I'm completely different. And it all started with taking a few deep breaths a day. And it is crazy because that's how it starts. And it really, when you look back, you're like, it's the simplest thing that triggered the long-term difference in yourself.
All right. Love that.
Drop,
Drops.
kumbaya.
Kumbaya. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Ethereal Podcast. I'm Dom.
Saige.
We hope you guys have a beautiful week. You are loved. You are worthy. You've got this. Go kick ass.